Hello and welcome to Vocal Intuition Live on this wonderfully rainy Saturday morning, or at least it's rainy where we are. And I'm delighted this morning to welcome my guest, Peter Gregory. I am Peter G. And Peter is my business coach, and a very good one he is too. So I thought it would be great to get him on to speak to all of you and to chat about coaching in general. So Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you work with.
So Peter Gregory, the moniker Peter G is kind of stuck, so that's where I go through. I'm 53 years old. I'm married. I've got a 18-year-old, 19 in a week's time, 19-year-old daughter. I've got a dog who's usually underneath my desk. What do I do? Business coach, but generally I help small businesses not be alone. Work together to build them a business that works for them, the way they work, because we're all individuals, we're all unique, and generally get them choice and freedom to have the life that they want. And passionate about it. So and that's where the coaching comes in.
I think choice and freedom are really important words there, aren't they? With coaching. And I forgot to say just in my preamble there, if you are watching, then do make yourself known and give us a wave and a comment. And if you're watching the video, you can still do the same thing. And I'm here talking to Peter Gregory this morning. So we're just talking about coaching in terms of allowing people choice and freedom. I know that there will be some people out there on my various pages who this will be helpful for, people who run their own small businesses or are actually self-employed performers, speakers, singing teachers, or business owners in general. So do have a watch if you've just discovered us. So Peter, why did you decide to become a coach? How did that happen?
It was a journey. I think it's a journey for most coaches. I think it goes down to my driver is, as you know, I remember when I was 8 years old trying to solve a maths problem and I couldn't solve it. Surrounded by children, nobody was there to help me. They didn't help me, and it was very frustrating, maybe quite angry. And it was the first of many times throughout my life where I've had that. I used to work in corporate land until I came out into business where I'm working with people. And I realized there's a lot of people, especially in small businesses, but even at the C-suite level, they're surrounded by people, but there's nobody there to listen to them, to help them, to move them on. Nobody should ever be in that position. So everything I do goes around that. How can I be there for somebody else? How can I help them achieve their success? How can I help them have a better life? I mean, life is short enough as it is. We might as well have fun. But sometimes you just need somebody there just to support you, somebody just to, as a coach, to uncover the thoughts and help you where you're going to go. But other times just to go rah rah rah, you're doing a brilliant job. Like and as you say, I'm very passionate about it. And we talked about that choice and freedom. It gives me the choice and freedom. I work with people I want to work with. I have the lifestyle I want. Obviously, we all want better things, but it's the lifestyle I want. I've already got there, and it's so much better.
It is. Yeah. Fantastic. And I suppose if we don't have somebody to listen to us and if we don't have somebody to feed back to us, then I think, do we even exist? We all need that as human beings, don't we? On whatever level, which is what brought me into coaching, as well as singing teaching and voice teaching in general.
I think it's even more important than ever before with the way the world is. We're too busy doing or in our own little worlds, and it's very rare we have somebody listen to us, truly listen to us, to just to help us. A lot of people, whilst they're listening, and we know as a coach, you're listening to reply, so you're not really listening. Having somebody truly there just to help get those things that are in here, because it gets really quite cluttered in here, just to actually get them out is good. So I mean, like it says for you, around the singing and everything, there's a lot going on there. obviously you're dealing with the vocal and the physical stuff, but mentally, especially for performers or people who want to speak with more confidence, there's a lot in here that gets in the way, isn't there?
An awful lot. And just to clarify, for those of you watching on LinkedIn, I do teach singing as well as spoken voice. And on LinkedIn, you'll know me for my spoken voice work. And on Facebook, you'll know me for my singing voice work. So that's just to clarify, so in case you're thinking, oh gosh, is Anne not the person we thought she was? But I look at voices in general because I think our voice is linked to our self, to our being, to who we are in a very important way, and it's part of our identity, whether we speak or sing with it. And that's why I do what I do, really, in terms of wanting to help people to be heard. It's about listening to them and not just hearing. We can hear, and as you said, we can formulate and try and figure out the next thing to say. How often do we do that? But to really hear somebody, you've got to hold space for them, to give them that space, and then to just reply in your own time. People are too frightened of silence, I think. We can have a pause, we can have a silence after we've heard something before we respond. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, silence is an interesting one, especially around coaching. It's the most powerful thing around coaching that you can do is silence. But it takes, so we talked about how to be a professional coach, we'll talk about later. It takes a skill to be able to hold the silence. We're trained from a very young age to be very uncomfortable when there was a silence, and we always try to fill it. But that silence, when we're coaching, that's when the magic happens. So yeah, silence is a good one. It just allows, as we said, people in here just to actually process the information and that type of thing. So yeah, silence is a very important thing. Too many people don't have enough silence around them to actually pull things together and think what's going on.
Yeah. And I think for us as coaches as well, if we suddenly just dive in, then we haven't given them that processing time to actually decide what they want to say next. We might hear something that we'd otherwise miss. Oh, we've got a few people watching us now and taking part. So good morning, Franca. I know Franca's a life coach as well, like me, as well as a voice coach and a voice teacher. So we've got a lot in common, myself and Franca. And morning to Danny and morning to James Bacon. So thank you for joining us. And if you have comments or questions that you'd like to add, then do, and we'll get round to them later, if not during the broadcast. And we're just talking really about coaching and what it is to us. And I know that people will vary, won't they, in their ideas about that. But to me, and I think to you, it's about giving space to people to find their own way. And I know you've got other things to add to that. To me, it's all about holding space and helping people to find their own answers and to guide if I'm asked, rather than to impose. So it's always their agenda. Morning, Felicity. Good to see you. What's your take on that, Peter?
No, I agree. I usually say I provide a psychologically safe place. There's no judgments or anything like that, which is what some people need, where somebody can just explore things. They can get a clarity. And then with that clarity, they're able to move forward. They're able to take action. As I say, get out of their own way and actually get the success. But they need that environment. As we say, we need that person to listen. But sometimes, I'm sure it's the same for you. Some of your clients, all they need is somebody to listen. Don't once they verbalize something, they understand what they're thinking. So, but it's hard when you're surrounded by it, especially if you're somebody who's in charge and everyone thinks you know what you're doing. Sorry,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't. You can't say I've got no idea. But when you've got a coach around you, they can go, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I've got imposter syndrome, and everyone thinks I'm rubbish, and we can take you through that, give that support. Whereas you're top level CEO of a massive company, and you tell your board of directors, I just don't know what's going on. you don't have that support, you can't do it. So it goes back to my why, that that lonely thing. Even people surrounded by tons of people haven't got somebody who gives them that psychological safe space. So you say, hold the space just to listen. And it's a very powerful thing. It just enables people to actually get what's in their own head. So this comes to what we talked about before we came on. There's a wide variety of what people think is a coach. So, and what do you define the coach as? Because it's you get different definitions from different people.
Yeah, I think first of all, for me, it's always tricky because I work with voice. If I use the word coach as well,
Yeah.
people will automatically go, "Oh, voice coach," because I know there are a couple of people here who are in the same sort of area as me professionally, and they will know that people will swap the word coach for teacher or trainer, and they'll use them synonymously. And yes, we use some coaching approaches as a good teacher. I think we all do that. We all try now to help the student to find their way, to find their own ways with their voice. But there are very definite differences between coaching and teaching or training, I think, which need to be addressed. Now, as well as being a person that works with voice, I'm also a life coach. So it's very difficult for me to say, well, I help people with their personal growth on an inner level as well as help them with their voice. And I use a unique blend of these two things. Why? Because, well, our inner self is inextricably linked to our voice. And so it's something very different. Now, I know this is a really interesting area to Franca and possibly to Felicity as well. And I'd love to know what you think about that. It's something that we do as voice teachers. But then if we go over the line to being a coach, we're very definitely on the side of listening, allowing space, not interfering, and not instructing. So it's the instructional part. And I think you called it the passing on of knowledge, although we might do that if people want us to and ask us to in a coaching situation. And then it's a tricky area. And your thoughts there, anyway, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting where being a coach has become a very generalized word in lots of people, but the pure aspect of a coach is, as you say, somebody who creates that environment. They ask the right powerful questions. They ask them at the right time, so they're not just running from the script.
Yeah, here's a powerful question. Here's another.
But they ask them in the right way. There's many ways to ask a question. I mean, one of the standard coaching techniques is the why question. And one model is asking why 5 times. So if anybody's listening, if you're doing something and you're a bit confused, ask yourself why 5 times. So it's a very powerful way. But if I'm on a coach and go why, it's very disturbing. So you have to have the way of asking probably similar questions in different ways, and you're helping guide a conversation to a point. And the interesting thing around coaching is it is a skill, because we have to, whilst we're coaching, another aspect of it is we have to observe ourselves kind of from a distance to make sure that we're not influencing what things go on. Especially, talent I've had to learn, because I'm a natural born solutioner. I will always solution. Usually when you're training or you're mentoring, you usually go into solution mode.
Yes, you do. And mentoring is another thing altogether, isn't it? But I mean, I'm a great troubleshooter with voices. So, somebody comes in and they have an issue and I can help them to solve it. And I don't necessarily go into coaching mode. If it's a physical thing, I might just help them to fix it. But when you're in coaching mode, you don't want to be in fix mode, because you want the person to find their own solution a little bit more. And you don't necessarily know what the solution is for them, and we shouldn't try to fix
it. I've had this, obviously, as I've learned over the years, is, I've had somebody call on, It's obvious what the problem is. Why don't they see it? It's that. It's that. But I pulled back and made sure I haven't gone there. And, suddenly they'll turn around to you and go, oh, such. You go, what? Shit, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. But because
Yeah,
you've asked the question, they've found the actual thing because you're looking from the outside and they're looking from the inside.
exactly.
So
So
it's
we
like
assume, we assume.
yeah.
I mean, actually, even in teaching, this is why exploration and leaving
Mm,
space is so important, because what you think something is may well be if you're very experienced and skilled in what you're doing, but it isn't always. And sometimes it's that thing that the person says or feeds back to you themselves.
yeah.
Um,
And it is.
so,
We're all unique. We're all think and do things in different ways. So even when training, it's good time. So as we talked about earlier in training, for me, yes, it's passing information, but we've all been in that training where you go in and somebody it's death by PowerPoint and there's bullet points on. You can read the PowerPoint before the person's gone, blah, 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 with a very droning voice, which we all talked about. If you're a trainer with a droning voice, you are going to lose people. You need to obviously work with Anne to give a good delivery. But you need in training, you need to be able to give the information. You need to be able to make it fun and have a good laugh because we know humor. You need to have those stories. Stories is a good way, but also you need to step back, kind of use coaching skills to actually help people find the information themselves,
yes,
because people retain information that they find. It's the
yes,
endorphins and everything. It just makes
yes,
a difference. So coaching, when we talk about coaching, yes, you can bring it into different things. And even some of the coaching you've experienced from me, sometimes I'll be in coaching mode, then I might move to a mentor role, and then I might do some training. Might be in the same session, or I might
mm,
be with a client and it's pure coaching because that's
yes.
what they need.
And
It's
we
having
move between them, don't we, as trainers and coaches?
yeah.
A really nice comment here from Franca, who's just following along here today. So thanks for this, Franca. And she says that coaching for me also is about helping the client to find answers on other levels than the
Mm,
cognitive place. Really important point. Most clients have already been there, guiding them to explore the other levels, emotional, physical, and energetic as
oh,
well. Yeah, that's powerful.
the
And
emotional one's very interesting, actually, isn't it?
mm,
Because
yeah,
as you say, you do the vocal coaching and the life coaching because we need to get it out of the way. Sometimes I have difficulty explaining. I'm a business coach, but actually being in business or being a CEO of a big company, it's a very emotional thing. So
mm,
even at our level, I won't go into deep level of life coaching, but sometimes you get somebody on a call, they're being upset, they're emotional. You need to get them into the right emotional state.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
as a coach, we've had people break down and cry
yeah,
because they're removing all the roadblocks, and sometimes that can be painful.
mm,
So even different coach at different level, you've got to be able to have the techniques to be able to do that. I mean, I would say I'm an eclectic coach, so I've got lots of different techniques. I haven't got a set process. I'll get on a call and I'll find out whatever. The coach might go into a emotional state, or we might go into a different energetic state, which means I have to use different techniques and things like that. Professional coach has that ability to do that. um, and it's a very emotional. Somebody may have been blocked for something for years, suddenly you unblock it. that,
yeah.
that is an emotional thing.
It
uh,
absolutely is. It
mm,
absolutely is. And people are very vulnerable with
yeah.
us in those situations. I certainly know in voice work that people are vulnerable, which is why coaching and voice work, I think, go so well together. And I mean here personal growth or life coaching.
Mm,
And just that approach of allowing people to open up, be vulnerable, find their own solutions.
yeah.
And it's one of the hardest things to learn is that people need the space to do that, and we don't always need to be doing and fixing them. I'm rambling a bit, but I think
No, no,
it's
it's true. I mean, as you say in the voice, and especially the stuff that we do. there's years of baggage. Keeping my language, I'm going to go. There's a load of shit that we build up over the years.
Say it like it is, Pete.
Say it like it is. That is getting in people's way. I mean, with the voice, from an early age, people start talking about your voice. I remember when my voice was when I was very young, I didn't like my voice at all. So you start to build up those things. Oh, I can't sing. I can't do this. I probably can sing if I put the effort in, I probably could. But we build up those self-beliefs and they become firm foundations, and we've got to unpick them. So when it does come to coaching, there is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of shit that we unpick. So it's like a thread. We might pull on a thread and we unravel a load of things. And as Frankie was saying, we might pull here, but he does something totally different here. So it's, and we can't predict. We can't, so when we're coaching, we can't say, well, if we pull here, we don't know where it's going to go. But that's the power of coaching, because we are not doing it. We are just there to help guide. It's the person themselves doing it.
Yeah, we're guiding them to which thread to pull, and then they can try the ones that they want to. Felicity's saying that she's agreeing with us as well. It's essential in the voice world these days, and this goes for speaking actually as well as singing. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of work with women in business at the moment, and women who feel afraid to sort of stand up and speak out because they've been held back in some way by criticism, by judgment, in various, I suppose, high-level corporate situations and business rooms. And it's a real thing. But just generally, we all are very vulnerable when we speak to groups, because there is always that primeval thing of, will I be accepted? Am I safe?
Am I safe?
Singing the same, actually, but am I accepted? Am I safe? Because if I'm not, then, primarily, I might be out on my own and the saber-toothed tiger might come and get me in and eat me. Now, we know that the saber-toothed tiger's not here anymore, but there still is that feeling. We need that positive feedback. We need people to really hear our message. Otherwise, where are we? As a person, we're diminished, aren't we, if we're not really heard?
Yeah. And different people need different levels, depending on the level of shit and the other stuff. So that's where we come in. And we've spoken about this. Some singers, their vocal techniques are absolutely perfect, but there's no passion that comes through because they're hiding behind the vocal techniques.
Yeah, same with speakers. Although speakers don't think about their vocal techniques as much as they should, unless they are professional speakers or actors who've actually trained. What we find is people take their voices for granted, and then they wonder why it breaks down. And you dig underneath the surface and you find, well, there's an emotional upset. There's a problem in their life. They don't like themselves. They don't have self-belief, or whatever it happens to be that comes to the fore. Or like I've just said, they're being bullied at work. And then you start to see that link between the voice and the voice and the self, the person. And that is
very much, people have to have the confidence to speak. And to speak, if they hate their own voice, they're not going to speak. It's a big one. I remember some people. I worked around the IT industry. Some of those people were very, very clever, but because of maybe the social skills were slightly different, because we all they weren't normal or whatever normal is. Well, we know what geeks can be like. They can be quite intense. A lot of them quite.
I'm a voice geek.
So they don't have the confidence to speak up because these more louder people just overspeak them and they never listen. I always learned that if the quietest person in the room spoke, everybody else would shut up and I would listen, because that's probably the person who actually knows what's going on. But they don't have the confidence because they're scared that they're going to be put down by everyone else. It's the same for a lot of people. It's the confidence to actually do things. I think it's the confidence to actually not care what people think. As you said, we care what other people think. The less we care what other people think, the more we're able to do stuff.
Somebody said to me, sorry, Peter, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but somebody said to me, what other people think of us is none of our business.
Yeah.
It's what we think of ourselves. It's how we believe in ourselves. Now, that's not to say we should ride roughshod over everybody else, but if we've got something to get out there, we need to be able to get it out there without all this voice in the head getting in the way. And so that's what coaching's about for me as well, really.
Even
It's
that,
about
as you say, it's that
in
confidence to do it. It's a big one. It was, for me, life got a lot easier when I started liking myself. As I jokingly said, the inner voice that I had in my head, I took down a dark alleyway and gave a good slap, because if that was something external to me, I would not have put up with that language. And now that inner voice is a lot kinder. When you start,
I think that's a great tagline, helping you to give your inner voice a good slap.
it's the inner
That's
voice
totally it.
stops us, as you said, you work with the inner voice as well. That stops us from so many opportunities. We preempt, what will people think? What if I fail? Well, so what if you fail?
It's just another way to learn. We can't learn without failing. You did a very good piece on that recently, actually, that I've just read. We cannot learn anything without failing. It's the same in what you do. It's the same in what I do. Babies fall over before they can walk. It's a vital part of learning to do things. Felicity's saying, well said, Peter, here. I'm not sure which bit it was, but and she's also saying wonderful. So this is obviously resonating with the people who are watching us. And I'll go back on all those comments after the broadcast and just respond. But if you have any questions, folks, fire them out here, and we can deal with them later, because we're coming to the end very soon. So I'm just going to ask Peter, do you have any tips for anyone who's wondering about whether they need to find a coach on a personal level or a business level? And, if they're hesitating and wondering, because actually I think we all, in a way, need a coach. I've got several coaches, and I need them all.
I think probably, that's probably the first thing. If you're looking for a coach, make sure they've got a coach.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I've got a number around me. I know all the best coaches have a coach around them. They need. Remember, when we're coaching, we're kind of coaching. We're looking at ourselves, and we need a coach to help us. If you're looking for a coach, then you want to understand what the outcome is you want, so you get the right type of coach.
Yeah, and the right person for you.
So many. Look for people who are experienced. Look for the testimonials. Personal recommendations are good, but it's got to be somebody you trust and somebody you get on with. If you don't, you're not going to open up. You're gonna shut down. You're going to hide things because you don't feel safe. So do that.
And a good coach will build that trust.
And
we do have different personalities, and it's a bit the same with voice teachers. We do need to actually find the right person for us, and it's not always about knowledge and skill, although that's important. It's about whether we gel with them on the level of the being, on the level of the self, really, and whether they can help us to.
It's an interesting one. A proper coach doesn't need any knowledge. Pure coaching doesn't need any knowledge and skill.
No,
I don't need to know anything. So I could work with a business I don't know anything about. I usually try to know a little bit, but I could work with somebody and I can coach them because they've got the knowledge. All I'm doing is unlocking what's in their head. So a pure coach doesn't need knowledge. A mentor probably needs knowledge. But a pure coach. So
that's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
So it's actually about listening and allowing space and asking really, really good questions at the right time.
Yeah. And it's brilliant when you get the right question at the right time, and you just get that. Oh
wow. And if you really listen, then you can ask the right questions. So I think in a way that is a skill. But I understand what you're saying. We don't in some ways need a bank of knowledge. We perhaps need understanding of the person in front of us, and we could go on about this all day. We definitely need some boundaries around what we do in terms of what we can deal with and what we can't deal with.
Yeah, it's as a coach, you obviously, as you said, you choose the right one. So I'm a member of the Associates of Coaching. and I deal, I adhere to their ethics and codes and the professionalism. As we mentioned, anybody can call themselves a coach. There's no real register, so it can.
Oh, sure, you can take a $27 course online and call you a coach.
Oh, just be careful. If you're going to go into coaching, just avoid those. Do it properly. It's that type of thing. But yeah, if you're looking for a coach, and if you're looking to become a coach, avoid those scam schemes. Go find a coach who will help you become a coach.
We have to do the inner work ourselves, I think, first. We've got to do our own inner work in order then to understand what it is, to be present and to coach somebody else.
Well,
so
that comes to the inner secret. Your chances are, if you want to go find the perfect coach, the perfect coach will have had the same problems that you were probably going through, but they're just further ahead on the journey, because they can actually understand what's going on. It's that type of thing. So you'll probably find you get different coaches coaching specialities. Like yourself, for you, it's the vocal, and that's your skill because that's been your journey, and you help other people. So I remember you telling us, it was from a very young age. How young were you when you started with the vocal, the singing?
Oh gosh, I've been singing since I was very young child, from a very musical family, and that was our way of and still is our way of communicating on an emotional level, and that's great. But you get to a point where you think, well, I actually prefer speaking to people. I want to be heard. I want to be heard when I speak. And are people as interested in me as a person when I'm not singing and getting all this praise for being a singer? And so it can lead you into a bit of what's the word? A mix-up about where you are with your identity. I'm past that now, but it's part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is because it's not just about one aspect of voice, it's about all aspects and about who we are as people as well, and linking all of that together. So what I have to say is just as important as what I have to sing, and I try and extend that to other people as well.
And that's the reason why you're so great at what you do, because your clients need the same sort of journey.
They do.
So when you identify a coach, as I say, find out what their journey is, because the journey may be, that's where they can help. Not all the time, but that's the type of thing. So
it gives them a special kind of empathy. And Frank is saying, we're responsible for the process, not the content. Yes. And we are the experts on our own journey. So that's why it's so
experts on our own journey. I like that.
Yeah, we are. So I think that's a good one to finish on. We'll be experts on our own journey, and we'll be listening to our own inner voice. If any of you would like to know more about Peter and his work, or drop him a message and have a chat, or me, I might as well give myself a plug as well. But it depends what it is you're looking for. Then we'd be very happy to chat to you, and as I'm sure Frank would as well, because I know that Frank is a coach too. So I'm being very generous here and just saying, let's all collaborate and help each other.
Yeah, but about making the world a better place for everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it, the world's in a mess. We can do it one bit at a time. So okay, thank you for joining us this morning. It's been really good to see so many people here, and I hope more of you watching on the replay have got things to say as well. And any questions, any comments, we'd love to hear them. Give us a few likes and shares, and that will really help us with our message. And let's make that world a better place. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.